So you guys remember perfect square trinomials right here? Do you guys remember how to factor these? You have to ask 3 questions. What are those answers? It should be a yes, yes, and then a yes. Okay, because I want to make sure you get that, some of you aren't even looking yet, and you're not going to get this later. What's the yes, no answer, or question that I'm asking here? If this is a perfect square, like, can I square root it? And yes, it would be x. That's a yes. Is this a perfect square? Yes. And then somebody give me what this question is, because that's a little complicated, but I need you to explain it to me, because that explanation explains that process. Yes, sir.
So first you multiply the
square roots
of the 2 sides.
So that's x and 3.
So
Okay.
3x.
3x.
That times -2 or 2.
Good. That times -2 or 2 based on that sign. Very good. Okay, listen. You have to get the square roots of these, right? And then those square roots get multiplied basically by 2. Does that make sense? Positive 2 or -2. You get that?
Yes.
Okay. You square root and you multiply. Those are the 2 steps. Square root and multiply. Commit that to your memory, because I'm going to ask you again in a few minutes. Okay. What would that factor into? Does anyone know what this would factor into? X plus 3 squared. And if you forgot the perfect square trinomial, you would still get this. X plus 3 times x plus 3. And what does that equal? X plus 3 squared. So there's an easy way of doing it, and there's a little bit more extended way, but really they're not that bad either way. This is the way I want you to get used to it. Okay, good on that. Perfect square trinomials. Any question? Yes, yes, yes is good.
Okay, so has everybody taken the quiz before I say this?
Everyone has, but not everyone has completed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can ask me when they're working individually. Thank you. Okay, let me give you your first problem here. Oh, by the way, we're using what we call completing the square, and that process is going to help us to solve quadratic equations. And we've already solved quadratics. So you guys remember how we solved already? By factoring. Okay? So, Mr. Ray, why can't we just factor on these? That's a great question. Write this equation down, please. X squared plus 6x plus 4. And everyone needs to work it out. And please write the steps I write down so you at least get comfortable with the process. Okay. Go ahead and factor this trinomial. Go ahead and factor it as best you can. You could use the bridge method, or maybe you know what the 2 binomials would be anyway, but go ahead and factor it. Okay, I'm going to go with the binomials because the coefficient is 1. I know x goes in the first spot. So what would we normally call this answer? You guys remember what you call it? You call it prime. Call it prime or unfactorable, right? You tried 1 and 4, and that doesn't work. You tried 2 and 2, and that didn't work. You tried -2, that doesn't work. -4, -1, that doesn't work. Nothing works, right? So we would be stopped right here, and we would not be able to solve this equation. But now we have a tool called completing the square. So this is what we're going to do. Guys, imagine if this were a perfect square trinomial. Wouldn't that be nice? If this were a perfect square trinomial, you would say yes, 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 and then you could factor it, right? But it's not. So we're going to make it a perfect square trinomial. We're going to force it to become that. All right, this is what I'm going through the process, and you may not get it the first time. That's okay. Most of you won't. That's okay. All right, I had x squared plus 6x, and you know what I want to do? I want to take that constant, and I want to subtract it from both sides. I want to get that constant out of the way. So I'm going to subtract 4 from here, subtract 4 from there. And I got ahead of myself here. Okay, so subtract 4 from both sides. All right, I'm left with x squared plus 6x. And then what's 4 minus 4? 0. And then I'm going to leave a blank here. I'm going to leave a blank here, then put equals with 0 minus 4? -4. So do you see I just simplified everything, and I left a big blank there. Because this number right here, if I can find out what that number is to make this a perfect square trinomial, I'm going to put it in there. You're like, how do you figure that out? Okay, ready? Do you guys remember how I factored this? I had a square root and then multiply by 2. Do you remember that? Okay, ready? To find that number, I'm going to reverse that process. I'm going to take the coefficient of x, which is 6. I'm going to divide it by 2, because what undoes multiplication? All right, so I'm going to divide by 2. And what does that give me? 3. And then what undoes square rooting? Squaring. So I'm going to take 3 and square that. And what do I get? 9. So I'm going to take this number right here now and square it, and that gives me a 9. That 9 is a very special number. Yes, ma'am?
Like, how did you go to divide by 2 and square?
That's the reverse of this, and you don't have to know why I do it necessarily yet, but let me just go through the process. Okay, so if I put a 9 here, that would make it a perfect square trinomial, but I can't just do that. Close. If I added 9 to one side, what do I have to do to the other? I have to add 9 to that side as well, because if I just take a balanced equation and add 9, okay, that's great, but now it's imbalanced. What do I do to the other side? Add 9, and now I have a balanced equation. All right, so this is what I'm left with. X squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 5. Good. Okay, so great. Now I have a perfect square trinomial. Can you factor it out?
Yeah.
I hope you can. Oh. That's right there. All right. So you get x plus 3 squared, and then that still equals 5. Now, it was funny with the other class. I was like, okay, so do you see how we got the perfect square trinomial? Like, you see that 9 was a good number, factored it out. But what's the whole point of this problem? What's it asking me to do? Solve. That means I need to find out what x is. I still don't know what x is. All I have is this now. Oops. Yes, ma'am.
Why is x plus 3 squared again? Like x plus 3 y?
That's the factoring. So remember how I factored a perfect square trinomial? It is this. So it's x plus 3 times x plus 3. Okay. Oh, I didn't need that.
Are you always going to divide by 2 and then square it? Like,
Yes, always going to divide by 2 and then square it. That's exactly it. Okay, I just rewrote it because I need more space, because, yeah, this problem is involved. Okay, I want to solve for x. What's happening to x first? It's being added with, and then it's being squared. What undoes squaring? Square root both sides. Square root both sides. So you're going to undo this squaring by square rooting. They undo one another. And what are you left with on the left side? X plus 8. Do you guys remember me talking when we did the, when you had these kind of problems? I'm just writing this down. You don't have to write this down. What undoes square rooting? Squaring. So now what I'm asking you is what undoes squaring? Square rooting, because they're inverse operations. All right. But anyway, that was x plus 3. And then on the right side, this is where it gets strange. You get square root of 5, and I don't expect you to know what that is. You can leave it square root of 5, but actually you're left with 2 numbers. And do you remember, did I put the quadratic function, or the quadratic formula up here? Did I ever write it down? Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a?
No, you were just talking to us.
But I wrote it down. I don't expect you to know it, but there was one part that someone in the other class called me out on, like, sorry, what is that? It's this symbol right here. Plus or minus the square root of 5. This right here is 2 numbers right here. One of the numbers is positive square root of 5, and what do you think the other number is? Negative square root of 5. It's 2 numbers. And you're like, whoa, how can you get 2 numbers? What kind of equation are we dealing with? A quadratic. How many answers can a quadratic have? 2. 2, up to 2. And this is going to show me how those numbers come to be. Do I have x by itself still?
No, you have to
Subtract 3 from both sides. Subtract 3 from both sides. And you're like, okay. And then you're left with x equals. This is how I want you to write the right side. This is how I want you to write this out. You write out the constant, plus or minus, and then the square root, or plus or minus the other value. And that to a lot of people is like, what in the world did he just write up there? And I understand. I totally understand. That's your answer.
That's the easiest.
Now, let me show you something here, guys. This is two values. And you're like, yeah, -3 square root of 5. No. It's worth two things. The first answer is x equals, you don't have to write this down. Well, you do write this down, but this is not required for homework. -3 plus the square root of 5 is one answer. And the other answer is -3 minus the square root of 5. Those are the two values. And you're like,
You can write them together.
you can write them together like this. A shorthand notation for that, for writing this. But I don't understand that answer. It makes
So much sense.
no sense to me, right? Right now it makes no sense to me. Okay, if only you knew what the square root of 5 was, right? If you knew what the square root of 5 was, you can get this answer. Who can tell me what the square root of 5 is?
2.25.
Okay, I had 2.25. Anyone else? Estimate, guess, throw it out there. Okay, last year I did something. At first it was like, why are you making us do this, Mr. A? And then these 8th graders, so the ones that moved on to 9th grade, they really impressed me. I would ask them, all right, what's the square root of 5? And I wanted an estimate because it's a non-terminating decimal that never repeats. And at first they were way off. They're like 5.3. I'm like, no, that's not even close. 2.7. I'm like, And then I started calling on them individually, like, Alyssa, what's the square root of 5? And she would give me to the nearest 10th. And some of them could even give me to the nearest 100th. I'm like, what? How do you guys do that? You know what it took?
Memorization.
Practice. Memorization would help because you're like, oh, I know what square root of 5 is. But sometimes you need just to practice it. Okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to give me your estimate and write it down on your paper. What is the square root of 5 to the nearest? No, write it down. Oh, my. I hope it deletes those. But anyway, what's the square root of 5 to the nearest 10th? Okay, there we go. So you would put, for example, this is not it. You would put 7.3 if you thought that was the square root of 5. It's not 7.3. It's too high. But what do you think it is? Write it down real quick. And some of you might surprise yourselves and get spot on, and some of you might be like, oh yeah, I need practice. Okay, so 5. Anyone not have an estimate? And it's okay if you get it wrong. This is hard.
In my brain power.
All right, there we go. Ready? Square root of 5 is 2.2. 2.2 would be the rounded.
I said 0.25.
All right, who put 2.2? 2 of you. All right, good. 3 of you. Did you surprise yourselves on that? A little bit. You're like, oh, cool. How many of you put 2.1 to 2.3? Like you put one of those values? Okay, you're close.
It's definitely 2.3. Because if you multiply like 2 by itself, it's going to get 4.
4.
Yeah.
So, but if you multiply 2.2, you're gonna get like 4.87. And remember, it repeats, so it gets you some more stuff. Gets you really close. Okay, so it's 2.36. So you're not far. That's a good estimate. All right, how many of you? You don't have to raise your hand, but think in your mind, you're kind of off. Don't raise your hand. Oh, I was off. But you were kind of off. You know what? It's your first time trying it out. That's okay. So we're going to try that out as we go through this lesson. And now you're like, okay, what's the point of that? That's a great question. Do you remember how we got 2 answers? We got -3 plus some random square root of 5. What's the square root of 5 about? I'm going to say it rounds to about 2. I'm just going to say 2. What's -3 plus 2? What would that be? It'd be about, and I'm going to put this -1. And what's -3 minus 2? About -3 minus 2? -5. They're about -1, -5. A little bit higher, or a little bit, I should say, lower, but that's what it's about. So do these numbers totally make sense to us? No. But will they get better and better in our minds? Yes. You're going to go into geometry and then algebra 2, and your classmates are going to get the square root of 5, and then they're going to be like, that means nothing to me. I don't even know what the square root of 5 is. It's some decimal number. You're going to be able to say it's about 2.2. And then you're like, okay, yeah, 2.236. And some of you are going to get really good at that, and all of us will get better. Okay. Write this problem down. Next problem. We're going to do it again. You didn't get the process the first time? I totally understand.
Trust the process.
Yes, trust the process. Okay, x squared plus 16x plus 6. Go ahead and try to factor in your mind. Don't write it out, but try to factor. Are there any two numbers that multiply to get me 6 that add up to be 16? No, it's not happening. So you would think,
Can't if the middle number is bigger than that outside number, it can only be like one digit more.
yeah, it could be like, if this is 10, that could be 11.
But besides that, if that's 10, that's 12.
It's pretty much, yeah, unfactorable for now. Okay, first step here, guys, is I want to make this a perfect square trinomial, so I'm going to subtract the constant from both sides. Subtract 6 from both sides. All right, and I'm left with x squared plus 16x blank equals negative 6. There's a blank. I need to fill in that blank with a special number found by a special process that you especially did 2 chapters ago. So what is the coefficient of 16? All right, wow. What's the coefficient of 16x? It's 16. I want to use that number. Then I'm going to divide it by 2. And you're like, 2 is pretty random. No. You did that already here. And that would give you what? 8. And then I have to square that number. So it's 8 squared. So I'm going to add 64 to this left side. But when I add 64 to one side, I have to add 64 to the other. You can't just keep this in balance here. All right, good. All right, so far I got these numbers, and maybe I don't understand how I came up with them, but I know that they're 64 on both sides. Does anyone know how to factor this perfect square trinomial? Yes, what would it be? No pressure, but here's a little shortcut. You see my work? Okay, I know it's going to be x, or some variable. And then what's that number? It's right here. It's positive 8 in this one. Why is it positive 8? Because that was positive 16. So positive. What if it was negative 16? Negative 8. And so that does change up later on. Ma'am?
So do you always put the middle number?
The middle number?
2.
Over 2. And then
Okay.
find that out and square.
Always.
Always.
Negative?
Even if it's negative. Even, dare I say, if it was an odd number. Okay, good. Some of you were scared of that because you should be.
Because odd numbers come out.
Figure out what when the x plus 8 squared. So you have to get it to where it
You want
squares
to
to 64 and then
x
double
squared
it
and
to
double it to 16. Yeah. So you want to be a yes. And that's the number that makes it a yes. Okay. What's negative 6 plus 64? 58. Okay. I want to find out what x is. So I'm first going to square root both sides. Shh. I'm getting clogged up here with noise. Okay. X plus 8 equals, now remember, it's not just the square root of 58. It's plus or minus the square root of 58. Plus or minus the square root of 58. It has to be two answers because you square rooted something. The square root of 58 positive and the square root of 58 negative. All right, but what do I do next to finally get x by itself? Subtract 8 from both sides. I am left with two answers put into one of negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 58. Square root of 58 is meaningless to me because I have no idea what it is. Write down your guess. To the nearest tenth, what is the square root of 58 about? Guess. Write it down. I'm going to give you a hint. It's a little bit above 7. Or it's in between 7 and 8. And you're like, how do you know that? What's the square root of 49? 7. What's the square root of 64? 8. So it's in between there. That helps me to estimate it. Okay, go ahead. Get an estimate there because this means nothing to me. And as you guys are getting that, I'm going to pull out this calculator that for now, really, it seems like you need it, but after a while you're going to be like, I can get it on my own. And yes, you can get it on your own. Yes. 58. All right. Does everyone have their number written down? All right, it's coming. Oops, don't click on the wrong button. 7.6. 7. Ooh, that's close. All right. Who got 7.6? 7.6. All right, 3 of you. Good. How many of you got 7.4 to 7.8? 7.4 to 7.8. Some number in between there. That's a good, you're 2/10 off. That's not bad. Is that about 7.5? Can we say that's about 7.5? Okay.
Well, no, it's still.
It is bigger, but it's about 7.5. Okay, ready? What's negative 8 plus, I don't want to put minus there. What's negative 8 plus 7.5? Does anyone know?
0.5.
It'd be negative 0.5, right? It'd be about negative 0.5. That would be one of your answers. And I'm just getting you to make sense of these numbers. And then what's negative 8 minus 7.5? Negative 15.5. So what are the two answers about? Negative half and negative 15.5. But I wanted this. This is your answer that I'm going to require. You just need to make sense of those numbers. People get these answers all the time like, got it. What does it mean? I don't know. Those two.
So for homework, what would be the answer?
The answer for homework would be this.
Okay.
Those I want you to start trying to figure out on your own. And you can do it mentally. Just, okay, what is that about? It's about that, about that. And I'll help you out. Don't worry.
Where did you get the 7.5 from?
Remember it was 7.6, so I rounded it to about 7.5 to make it easy to add and subtract. So these are not exact, they're approximates. But I need you to come up with those approximates because you need to make sense of the numbers. All right, just when you thought we were done, we're not. Oh my. I'm going to go through this process yet again. And hopefully you're starting to get a little bit better with, okay, he does this, and I think you do this next. At least you're getting it better. All right. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Are we doing the whole lesson this class period? No. We have more to do next class period. But it's the same idea, it's just a little bit harder. Increases in different. Yes, sir?
Are we going to have to do ones where the coefficient isn't 1?
Yes. But not to this morning. I'm not going to do it to you this morning. Not yet. I know. It's terrible. Okay, what's my first step? Emma Grace. Okay, you can try to factor it, and then like, oh man. It doesn't work. So what do? You, Jensen? Add 15 to both sides. Get that constant over to the right side. I am left with x squared plus 6x blank equals 15. So how do I find that blank number so that I can make it a perfect square trinomial?
Look at the one we already did.
6 divided by 2 equals 3. Then you square it, and hopefully you can memorize some things. Some of these are not too bad. I added 9 to one side, so I got to add 9 to the other. You can't just keep it in balance and think it's okay. All right, what does x squared plus 6x plus 9 factor it into? X plus 3 squared. It's 15 plus 9, 24. Okay, what do I do to get x by itself? I square root both sides. And I'm left with, on the left side with x plus 3 equals, anyone know what's on the right?
Plus or minus 24.
Plus or minus the square root of 24. And then what do you do to both sides to finish this one off? Subtract 3 from both sides. And how do I write my answer? X equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 24. Good. All right, this is your answer. I want this answer right here, guys. That's what I want. But we need to estimate so that we get better with number sense. I need to get your guesses written down. Square root of 24 is approximately what to the nearest? Try to go to the nearest hundredth. So go something point two numbers. See if you can get as close as you can. So you're expanding your estimation. That decimal number goes on infinitely. I don't want you to get that number. But you can get maybe 2 decimal places out.
Wait,
Okay.
Mr. Ray, could you
Sir.
use a way like, so we're looking at 24, and so if you double 4, like if you do
16.
16, so then
25.
24 minus 16, and then you get like 8, and then you do the higher one, you just
25.
16.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
No, it's higher.
It's yes. It's between 4 and 5, and it's really close to 5.
4.72.
I know what it is, Mr. Ray.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
4.92.
Write it down. Get your estimates. So 24 square rooted is...
I'm on Team Nick, just saying.
I think Ron's estimate is right.
I got
It's
him!
gonna be 4.8.
Please be 4.8.
Yeah.
Dang it! I got 4.9!
That's what I got. I put 4.8.
Okay,
I only got 4.8.
it should be...
What'd you get?
Technically, if you round it to the nearest hundredth, it'd be 4.9.
So I got closer.
4.9 is the 9.0 should be.
played.
Did you get it, Matt?
I got 4.8.
4.8? Okay.
4.9.
9.2. I guessed that the last time. It's pretty close.
4 when I
Say it again.
No, you weren't.
Oh yeah, that's too high. Yeah, because. All right, who got 4.9? Who got 4.9 something? Okay, pretty close. Who got 4.7 to 4.9? 4.7. That's good. That's very good. That means you're getting close to it. So that would round to about. What do you think? What do you round? That's about 5. Yeah, you can. Can I? I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it in a little bit. But thank you. That would be close. Oh, wrong button. So what's negative 3 plus 5? 2. What's negative 3 minus about 5? So your answers are 2 and negative 8. Those would be those answers very close to those numbers. All right, good. Let's move on. Oh, I'm so sorry. Actually, no, I'm not. Okay, listen to me. You know how you guys have done factoring already? You know, you could get the 2 binomials, come up with a factor. You know, completing the square always works. Always works. It always works. Even on the ones that are factorable, because completing the square is very nice.
I don't like that.
Some of you aren't listening, and yet I gave you a giant hint. Okay, I'm going to add 96 to both sides. And yeah, try to do it on your own. I'll just kind of walk behind you, or you could follow me if you're still not getting it. X squared plus 4x blank equals 96. All right, how do I find that blank? I take 4, that's that coefficient of x, divided by 2, which is equal to 2. And then what do I do with that number? Square it, which equals 4. So I'm going to add 4 here. If I add 4 to the left, I got to add 4 to the right. Oh. Anyway, is this a yes? Yes. Okay, so that's a perfect square trinomial. What is the factoring of x plus 2? You know where I get this number from? I get this number from right here in the parentheses. It's a 2. That's where I get that number from every time. It's whatever got squared. That number, boom, 2. All right, and then equals, 100, which is nice. So what do I do to solve this equation? Square root both sides. I'm left with x plus 2 equals, somebody give it to me? Plus or minus. And what is the square root of 100? We know that one. 10. So plus or minus 10. Yeah, someone said 50 in the other class, so that's okay. That's better. Kind of. No, it's because, you know what, we get mixed up with square roots. We think 50 plus 50 is 100. Yeah, but it's what times it's all. All right, what do I do to finish this one off? Subtract 2. I should get x equals negative 2 plus or minus 10. And because that is so straightforward, I need those exact answers. No. Yes. So what's your first answer? What's negative 2 plus 10? 8. What's your second answer? What's negative 2 minus 10? Negative 12. Those are my 2 answers. I want those.
Are we going to add 4 to both sides when I put it?
Say again?
Are we going to keep doing this lesson all the time?
Yeah.
It's just for
Yes, ma'am.
So do you, like when you're squaring on the right side, do you always put...
Plus or minus, always. Oh, wait. I am so sorry. Pretend this never happened.
Are you actually sorry?
No, but I'm pretending.
We believed it.
No, I never did.
It didn't.
Oh, you messed up.
2 factors of negative 96 that add to be equal. Oh, it's positive 12. Negative.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Those are my answers.
That's so much faster though. It's not so much faster. Say just like a minute.
Thank you, John. I mean, see, he's supportive now of what I do. Oh yeah. Remember what I said while this is what I said as you guys were doing something. I was like, completing the square always works, but you don't have to use completing square every time if you could factor at the beginning, right?
Did you lie to us though?
No.
You know when you use it, you say.
I did not lie. I just said it always works, and it does. Sorry.
No, like sometimes, like the first couple times you said, what are 2 factors?
Yes, and this one I didn't say that because I wanted to see how you guys. I think the other class, one person caught it. She's like, Mr. A, can you factor that? I was like, don't do that to me. Don't ruin my lesson here. And she's like, okay. And so we did complete the square. Then I came back. She's like, and I gave her the nod. You were correct. It was factorable. Yes, ma'am.
So is negative 12 and 8 your answer? Or is it
Negative 12 and positive 8, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so those are your answers.
Those are your answers, and they're exact because.
Sometimes they don't work.
Sorry.
Like that you got. Sometimes they don't work. But then you said you wanted.
Wait, what doesn't work? Oh, okay, how about this, John? Today, they will all work.
Are you sure? Can we check?
When are we getting that?
144.
Go ahead, you check. Sorry. Not today. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Wait, Mr. Ed, can you
Sir.
wait? That's not. It
That
doesn't work.
final thing where it's like.
Okay. It does. It really does. Do this one, sir.
Don't you want where it's like x plus 2 equals plus or minus 10, like instead of those 2 numbers you said?
Oh, I did, but
It's,
if it's 10, I can add or subtract that very quickly. I want the actual answers. When it's decimals, no, don't worry about getting me those. But you should think of them.
Are we gonna have these in fractions? No.
Not this morning. How about that?
What about this afternoon?
Yes.
Oh.
I took some truth serum, and I have to tell you the truth there on that. Yes.
If you have like 4, like the middle number,
Uh-huh.
can't you just like remember?
Yeah, some of you will remember. That's fine. But before you get too far, guys, is this factorable? Okay. It is not. Oh, so then go to the completing the square. But I want you to do completing the square every time. But when I just give you this problem, say solve, I didn't give you any specifics. If you can factor it, please do so. Save yourself some time. But anyway, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to go behind you guys because some of you already started. I'll just work it out. I'll stay quiet as best I can, which I struggle with. Because sometimes I just want to say something, help you out a little bit. But then I realize, no, you got to stay quiet. But then I see some of you doing similar things. I'm like, no, I can help them. And then just give them a little push. And then I realize I've been talking too long, and that's my problem. So I'm going to do my best not to say a thing to you as you work this problem out because I want you to do it on your own. But if you need some help, I don't mind helping out. I'm just going to stay quieter than usual. And then we will go through the process together.
Wait, Mr. A, can we?
Yes, sir.
Can we check if we square root it or like? Yeah, can we check if we guess right?
Say that again.
Can we check our guesses?
You could. You won't get exacts, but you could, yes.
Like, no, can we check it on the calculator?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to ask you guys again.
Yes. I know the facts.
All right. And your classmates from the other class said this was hard.
Yeah, it's like getting a little bit.
Ah,
It's not
interesting.
hard. I would try.
Yeah, Mr.
Unless
A,
it's getting hard, maybe just.
Oh, you know what? Honestly, here's what happened. This is what happened. You know the last problem I left, the board was filled. I said, should I leave that for them? And they said, yeah, leave it for them. So when you come in, you just like look at it and like, what? And I think they added to that it was going to be hard, but I don't know. You tell me. You answer the question to that. Okay, I want the square root of 3 written down because I want you to estimate what would it be to the nearest. This is your answer, yep. And then I want us to estimate to make sure we make sense of those numbers. So write it down. Go to the nearest hundredth. So blah point blah blah.
I remember the exact.
Ooh.
No, you're wrong.
Wow. Oh, no support there. But we'll see who's justified here. Square root of 3, right?
It's 3. It's Michael. 4 minus 1, not 4 plus 1.
Wow, we are just so intense, you know? It's gonna take you a while.
Okay. 1.73.
I put 1.5.
I put 1.7.
Oh, that's not bad at all. 100th off. Who put 1.7 something? 1.7 whatever. Okay, look at that. Who got 1.5 something to 1.9 something? That's a good range. Good. That's good. You're a tenth off. All right. So what is that about? It's about 2. We're just going to call it 2. So what are your two answers then? About. What's negative 2 plus 2? It's about 0. What's negative 2 minus 2? Negative 4. About negative 4. So it's about those answers, but that's the one I want you to write down. Okay. Begin. All right, I put 2 through 9 all, but I only really want you to work on 2 through 4 right now. Just do 2 through 4. If you can do 2 through 4, we're good. And you will show me all your work, and you will like it.
I will not show you all my work. You had it.
Can I steal some of these
Yes, that is correct. So you need to do this eventually, but do right now in class 2 through 4. So just do the first 3 problems. I need to see work. Goodbye, Swivel.